Good evening, everyone. Wekiva High School welcomes you to Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium for Week 2 of Varsity Football competition. Please welcome our guests from Ocoee High School. They are the Knights. And they'll be taking on your Wekiva High School Mustangs. As our team captains take midfield for the coin toss, we'll take this opportunity to thank our game officials from the Central Florida Officials Association here in Orlando. They are referee Isaac Rhodes, umpire Melvin Jones, linesman Roderick Bombard, line judge Jordan Durham, back judge Todd Slack, and clock and scoreboard operator Ralph King. We thank them for their dedicated service to our high school athletic programs and join them with all our participating schools, reminding everyone to make great sportsmanship a part of this and every athletic competition. The Knights have won the toss and deferred to the second half. That means the Mustangs will have the opening offensive possession of tonight's game. And they will be headed north. And now we invite you to please stand and remove your hats as we honor America with the presentation of colors by the Wekiva High School Air Force Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. Tonight's detail is under the command of Cadet Major Derek Skeet, carrying the U.S. flag. Carrying the Florida State flag is Cadet Captain Genesis Herbert. Carrying the POW-MIA flag is Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Genesis Ramirez. Carrying the Air Force flag is Cadet Airman Catherine Neal. And the Rifle Guards are Cadet Second Lieutenant Prince Rodriguez and Senior Airman Denard Bradley. And now please remain standing for the national anthem performed tonight by the Pride of Wekiva, your Mustang Marching Band. Our thanks to the Wekiva High School Marching Band and AFJROTC for their participation in tonight's pregame festivities. We'd like to let everyone here at the stadium know that we are live streaming this evening's game on YouTube, the NFHS Network, and Varsity Sports Network. If you have friends or family back in Ocoee, on the other side of Wekiva, or anywhere in the world, and they'd like to tune in and watch tonight's game live, they can do so on any of those three services. YouTube is, of course, free with ads, or $12 a month ad-free. VSN Orlando is free with ads. NFHS Network is $12 a month with limited ads. And now let's welcome Mighty Max and your Mustang Marching Band as we get ready for Week 2, the Knights versus the Mustangs. And welcome to those of you joining us on the broadcast. My name is Mark Barchi, the voice of the Mustangs and sports information director here at Wekiva High School, joined by Neil Fisher from the Apopka Chief, as we have been for these last 15 years, now going into season 16. And Neil, we saw some good things and a few bad things from week 1, but some promise to build on as we welcome to the stadium your Wekiva High School Mustangs.
Yeah, thanks again, Mark. And as we said last week, it's good to be back at Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. Wekiva, as they take the field, looking to win their second consecutive game. They won last week 36-21 against Olympia, and quite frankly, Mark, that final score was not indicative of how close the game really was. Wekiva held a 36-7 lead, 4.5 minutes remaining, and also want to point out, certainly a much different start than last year. Wekiva losing its first 4 games, giving up two touchdown leads, and 3 of those 4 games so far this season, they have been the complete opposite. They have led from start to finish in the preseason classic and last week's regular season opener. They won the preseason classic 40-7. Striking on the very first play, a 70-yard Tyree Davis to Terrell Gainey bomb. Last week wasn't nearly as spectacular or explosive. They did it the old-fashioned way, moving the ball 65 yards on 10 plays. But nonetheless, the result was the same. Wekiva has led from start to finish, scoring in both of the games ASAP on that first possession.
Yeah, Neil, if anything, if there's something to pick apart against last week's game, I would say it is the discipline of the team, that mental acuteness and awareness. Well, as now the Mustangs finally take the field. The band gave them their play-in a few minutes ago, and now it kind of seems to be ready. But the penalties last week, 8 up and gave Ocoee. I mean, that was a shutout if Wekiva's defense had that mental acuity to avoid careless dead ball penalties, a couple of personal foul infractions, a couple of fractions at the line of scrimmage that were really unnecessary and just reflect those kind of first week jitters. With emotions kind of taking over a little bit, and I think I'm hoping that's what Coach Schwartz focused on during his team meetings and practices this week.
Wekiva had 18 penalties last week, and now some of that, quite a few, there were 6 or 7 in that last 4.5 minutes. Talk to you about the fact they had a 36-7 lead. Game wind up being 36-21 because, of course, Coach Schwartz put in the non-starters. But still, there were double-digit penalties for the starters. Coach Schwartz did also point out he did disagree with 2 or 3 of the penalties. But on the other hand, it wasn't all the defense. The offense did too. They had 2 opportunities to score once. They made a nice pass over 20 yards to get the ball inside the 10-yard line. The other time they did not score inside the 10-yard line was after an Olympia fumble. So certainly both sides of the ball have some work to do on the discipline. But as I said, the bottom line is Wekiva is 1-0, opportunity to go 2-0. They come in as the favorite today. Ocoee is coming off a heartbreaking loss. They were ranked number 8 in the first rankings for the Orlando Sentinel Super 16. Lost to Apopka, the state powerhouse, of course. 2 out of the last 3 years, they've gone to the state championship final. They've gone to, I believe, 7 in the last 15 years, or 20 years, excuse me, in the last 20 years or so. They've been to the state final 4. And an opportunity for Ocoee to make a statement. They built a 12-0 lead, but then lost 13-12, giving up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And as we get ready to kick off, Wekiva will receive. That is the preferred. Coach Schwartz prefers his team takes the ball first, set a tone.
Of course, Wekiva did not choose that. Ocoee chose that for them, but nevertheless they chose what Wekiva would have wanted anyway.
It is something of high risk, high reward. Your starting offensive line, we'll get to that in a minute.
And this one, if the Wekiva is smart enough to let it go out of bounds, and that's going to be a penalty. Flag on the opening kickoff. Kickoff out of bounds. That'll move the ball up to the 35-yard line, and Wekiva will start from there with 1st and 10.
So, one play, 5 yards on Ocoee and penalties. And your offensive line from left to right, number 60, Edison Edmond, number 55, Holly St. Molest, number 54, Malachi Enriquez, number 78, Jazzy Valentine, and number 75, Josiah Mangiello, the big guys. Again, the offensive line, under center, Tyree Davis, behind him, running back Terrell Weathers, who gained over 200 yards last week. And then your receivers, Terrell Gainey, Josh Bennett, Noah Putman, and Anthony Gay third, a freshman making a start. So first play, Wekiva under Coach Schwartz has gone with that one-back set. Occasionally they'll bring in a halfback and put him two yards behind the guard. And we are ready to go from Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. And just like last week, Weathers takes that handoff, lowers the shoulder, trying to establish some physicality, nothing doing. Small gain. As a matter of fact, no gain, as the ball will remain at the 35-yard line after the penalty on the kickoff. So 2nd and 10, ball in the middle of the field. It's been a cloudy day. We had some drizzle about an hour before game time. Again, the one-back set. This time, though, the pass, and that is completed to...
Pass complete to Kevel Cooper. And the Mustangs get some positive yardage in the books for their opening possession. Ball spotted at the 42-yard line of Wekiva territory for a gain of 7 yards, and it brings up 3rd and 3 for the Mustangs.
Did you say Cooper? Kevel Cooper? Okay. And so Cooper, that's a name that has not been in the lineup in the first 2 games, the preseason classic as well as the regular season opener. He suffered an ACL, and it's good to have him back as well. So as Mark said, a 6-yard gain. That'll bring up, a 4-yard gain. And that'll bring up 3rd and 6, first third down play of the game. Handoff to Weathers. He slides to the outside, down that left sideline, motoring, crosses midfield, 40, and then the 30.
Terrell Weathers picks up a good block and gets into Knights territory down to the 30-yard line. Finally stopped by Singh Joshua of the Knights defense. That is a pickup of 17 yards on one side of midfield, 20 more yards on the other for a total of 37 yards on the carry. First down, Mustangs.
So Wekiva back to work, no huddle, all the way down at the Ocoee 30-yard line, 1st and 10. Keeping that ball in the middle of the field. And the pass, the swing route, and again, chewing up that yardage.
Tyree Davis completes to Tyrell Gainey. And that's good for back-to-back Mustang first downs. Ball spotted at the 20-yard line. And the Mustangs into the Knights red zone officially at the 19.
So an 18-yard gain, 55 yards on the last 2 plays, Mark. Wekiva goes back to the huddle.
And yeah, this is actually not entirely unlike what we saw last week in the season opener with Wekiva against the Olympia defense, and now we're going to get a flag.
Yeah, tried a couple of runs there at the beginning, nothing doing. The Ocoee defense showing their strength, and then they went to the pass, and that seems to have loosened that defense up.
Dead ball prior to the snap. Offsides called against the Knights defense. That's a 5-yard donation to the Mustang cause, and a replay of first down now, 1st and 5 from the 14-yard line. We'll recognize our rider for Mighty Max. Our Mustang rider tonight was Audrey Miller, the president of the Wekiva Future Farmers of America. Thanks for joining us tonight and adding a little bit of flair to our pregame festivities.
And so we'll talk about Tyree Davis and his growth improvement throughout the game. We did it a lot last week, and I think we've seen it there with a couple of spot-on passes as one back set, and now he's under pressure, and he's not going to be able to escape. Down he goes.
Tyree Davis is forced into a QB keep situation, taken down by Singh Joshua, and that's going to be a loss of 4 on the play. It'll bring up 2nd and 9 from the Knights' 18-yard line.
So there's where that penalty comes into play. If you're Wekiva, you're grateful for it because it'd be 14 yards to go as opposed to 9. Certainly that 5 yards, though, if you just say 9 as opposed to 14, it does sound, in terms of the intensity, much more. So as Mark said, 2nd and 9 from the Ocoee 19. Is that the actually?
I got it about the 18.
18-yard line, okay. And they're going to go back to the rush, swinging it to the outside.
Terrell Weathers on the carry for the Mustangs, getting down near the first down marker.
So Wekiva continues to plow and forge ahead with the powerful running of Terrell Weathers.
And it is just enough for the Mustang. First down. Ball spotted at the 8-yard line. First and goal.
Just underway from Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium, Wekiva's home field. They're threatening, though, and another handoff, this time a draw.
Terrell Weathers again on the carry, drawing to the center, and that's good for a pickup of about 5 yards. Puts the ball at the 4-yard line, second and goal.
So Wekiva continues to systematically and methodically inch closer, actually I guess a yard closer. They got that ball inside the 10-yard line, and they haven't really done anything fancy, nothing explosive, just 3-4 yards at a clip now. And as Mark said, now second and goal from the 4-yard line. Terrell Weathers continues to eat up the yardage in this opening possession. He lines up right to Davis, but Davis is going to go to the air. The bubble screen, and it will be third and goal from the 1-yard line, knocking on the door.
Screen is to Anthony Gay the third, and he picks up about half the distance needed. That puts the ball at a long 2 or perhaps a short 3 yards. Third and goal coming up for Wekiva.
So the first pressure felt by the Ocoee defense. Ocoee's defense over the last year and a half or so, they have certainly been the face of this Ocoee program. They come in, as I mentioned, 13-12 loss to Apopka, state powerhouse Apopka, who's been known to put some points up on the board. But in this opening possession, Wekiva's had its way.
Dead ball prior to the snap. Offsides called against the Knights defense. That'll be half the distance to the goal. And a replay of third down. So not a huge amount of yardage there, but every little bit helps when you're looking at a goal line stand.
And so the ball now at the 1-yard line. Officially 1-yard line, it's about 1.5. It's between the 1 and 2 yard lines. Third down, 6:10 remaining. Opening possession of the second game of the 2022 season from Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. Weather lines up behind and to the side of Davis, takes a handoff, weaves to the outside, finds just enough opening, and 6-0 Wekiva. 5:53 remaining. Wekiva moving that ball 65 yards.
Terrell Weathers into the end zone for a 2-yard Mustang touchdown.
11 plays needed to move that ball 65 yards, 4 passes, 7 rushes. And Wekiva, for the third consecutive game, including the preseason classic, scores on its opening possession. Once again, a big difference from last year, as the Marching Mustangs go to work now. Over to our right, you can hear them playing the fight song. And the kick from Innocent. And no good.
Innocent's PAT is no good. The score remains 6-0 with 5 minutes, 53 seconds remaining in the first quarter.
So we'll be back from Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. Wekiva taking the opening possession in a 6-0 lead against the Ocoee Knights. You mean Weathers? Yeah, Weathers. Just give me a minute here. And welcome back to Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium, home of the Wekiva Mustangs, who just took a 6-0 lead, one possession, one touchdown. And now of that first possession, we'll have his numbers in just a minute, but he rushed the ball 6 times. Ocoee, in the meantime, will take over 1st and 10 at their own 30-yard line. .547 remaining. And from the center, nothing doing. That was Keandre Jones, their big running back in terms of the impact in the face.
Keandre Jones on the carry. Omar Hayes on the stop. No gain on the play. 2nd and 10 coming up for the Knights from their own 30-yard line.
So Jones, a member of the Popka Blue Darters last year, gained over 1,200 yards, and he gets off to a rather pedestrian start. I believe 2 yards on that carry, actually about 4 yards.
Gain of 4 on the play. 3rd and 6 coming up for Ocoee from their own 34.
And the starting lineup for the Wekiva defense. Up front, Watkins, number 11, Mixon, 99 in the middle, Omar Hayes, number 12 on the end. And then you have Sincere Edwards, the UCF commit, the all-everything player.
Flag on the play prior to the snap. Offsides called against the Mustang defense. 5-yard donation to the Ocoee cause. And that will be a replay of 3rd down. It should be 3rd and short now. 3rd and 1. A long one coming up for the Knights.
So back to Edwards. He is officially listed as a defensive end, but look for him to switch around. He's number 0, and certainly the first test for this Wekiva defense. And, yeah, they're going to pass this test, flying colors. Boy, Jones swallowed up as soon as he got that ball and dropped. And Wekiva.
Kadar Cargill and Sincere Edwards teaming up on Jones for the carry. That's no gain on the play. And it brings up 4th and short for the Knights. So, Neil, looks like Ocoee says this is close enough. We're going to take a chance here.
Roll the dice. Aaron Shepard, head coach, making that decision. And
after we got the official spot, I actually think that's a -1 on that. So that'll be a TFL for Edwards and Cargill.
4:12 remaining, 4th and 2 for the Knights in those white jerseys. That's the Ocoee Knights looking to rebound from a 13-12 loss to Apopka last year. They came in extremely high hopes, much like Wekiva, a lot of returners. And they were ranked 8th at the start of the season in the Orlando Sentinel Super 16, their highest ever. Wekiva ranked 15th, and this play is not going to be an official play. Whistles.
Flag on the play.
Wekiva taking a 6-0 lead.
Prior to the snap. Offsides called against the Mustang defense. That's a 5-yard penalty, and it is enough for a Knights first down. So the 4th down conversion does not have to be earned. It is instead donated.
Yeah, and we talked about penalties before the kickoff, Mark, and discipline.
Yeah, and so once again, that's going to catch up with the Mustangs. And we have now passed the midpoint of the first quarter, and so we'll pause for an official timeout.
6-0, Wekiva with the lead, 3:48 remaining in the first quarter. Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium is the site.
Chick-fil-A of Greater Orlando is proud to partner with Orange County Public Schools. The 2022 Metro Conference football season is powered by your local Chick-fil-A locations. Don't forget to eat more chicken. Dr. Elizabeth Davis with Orlando Health Jewett Orthopedic Institute is honored to be the team physician for Wekiva High School. On the field and off, they provide a full spectrum of orthopedic services in a multitude of specialties and subspecialties, from hip, knee, and shoulder experts to orthopedic traumatology and more. Offering proven leading-edge techniques and technologies, Orlando Health Jewett Orthopedic Institute provides patients world-class personalized care from a number of convenient locations throughout Central Florida. Learn more at orlandohealth.com/sports. Orlando Health. Choose well. Welcome back to Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. Mark Barchi here with Neil Fisher, taking you through the first quarter, and the Mustangs having given a penalty up to give the Knights a first down, and now the ball is at the 43-yard line, and Wekiva is going to donate some more yardage.
So
penalty puts the ball into Mustang territory at the 48-yard line, and it's another first down, 1st and 10 for Ocoee. So back-to-back plays, the Mustangs give up penalties that result in first downs.
Handoff again to Jones.
Jones on the carry for a gain of a long 2. That brings up second and about 7.5 yards from the 45-yard line of Mustang territory.
First possession for Ocoee, and they've made it into Wekiva territory. And now the incomplete pass, so that'll set up 3rd and long.
The pass grazes the grass, and that'll be ruled incomplete. Brings up 3rd and 7 or 8 for the Knights.
Ocoee going no huddle. And finishing out your starting defensive lineup for Wekiva, number 8, Quadar Cargill and Aaron McCray, 8 and 6 respectively at the linebacker, and they go back to the handoff. Again, it's been Jones. It's been the Jones show, and Wekiva has sealed him, not allowing him any room.
Keandre Jones on the carry. Watkins with the TFL, and that's a loss of 3 on the play. It brings up 4th and 11 for the Knights.
And then your secondary for the Wekiva defense, the nickel back, Matt Perkins, number 36. Your cornerbacks, Justin Hutchinson, number 5. Terrell Gainey, number 7. Safeties, a pair of Smiths, Ramel wearing number 3. Jabari wearing number 4. And as that ball settles in and Ocoee downs it at the 21, Jabari, a sophomore, he was a starter last season as a freshman. So 2:31 remaining. Wekiva does make a couple of mistakes, but in the end, they do what they need to do, which is hold Ocoee and stifle Keandre Jones, and they take over 1st and 10 at their own 21-yard line with the 6-0 lead.
The punt will not be returned by the Mustangs. It takes a modest Ocoee bounce and is down to the 21-yard line. 1st and 10, Wekiva.
So Wekiva back to work, looking to extend that 6-0 lead. They took on the first possession. Davis with the pass, slipping and sliding, juking and jiving. The first down, and that's
pass
Gainey.
Complete to Tyrell Gainey, and it's enough for a Mustang first down.
A 12-yard gain. And Gainey, the transfer, continues to pay dividends for Wekiva. Davis again, a much improved Davis. Last year he came into the season in a quarterback battle. Coach Schwartz never really had anything to make a definitive decision. And back and forth, he was a part-time starter last year, played about 50% of the downs, and now he's going to drop back again, 2nd consecutive play. Now he's showing that maturity, physical growth, and he's going to get out of trouble, and nothing spectacular, but where I was going is that perhaps the biggest growth he's done, aside from the physical maturity, getting bigger and stronger, is he's limiting his mistakes. Much less this year, and there was an example of that. Didn't try to force the action, just got the ball out of bounds and decided to live to fight another day.
Davis on the carry. And a late flag, personal foul called against the Knights. That'll be 15 yards added to the end of the play. It was already a Mustang first down, and now more.
And so, Mark, there's the benefits of not trying to force that, keeping control, not letting your emotions get the better of you. They wind up getting, as Mark just said, the 15 yards on the Ocoee penalty. And that moves the ball into Ocoee territory at the 48. In motion, Bennett and Weathers met right at that line of the scrimmage and dumped, that was Jalen Putman. Number 13, he gets his first carry of the day, the first ball carrier besides Weathers. And actually gained a yard out of that. Heavy contact. So that Ocoee defense coming up big again on first down, making some impact, making some noise. But their problem has been they have not been able to stop Weathers. Weathers scoring the touchdown, a 2-yard jaunt on that opening possession. Davis back, and too high for Gainey.
Tyree Davis's pass intended for Tyrell Gainey is overthrown and incomplete. That'll bring up 3rd and 9 for the Mustangs from the Ocoee 47-yard line. I want to welcome those of you who are joining us on YouTube Live. If you are on YouTube, we would like to invite you to subscribe while you're here. We are so very, very, very close to 2,000 subscribers. There's nothing particularly magical that happens at the 2,000 subscriber mark, but it is a lovely milestone to hit, and we are at 1,991. So if 9 of you would subscribe tonight, you can have the honor of being the 2,000th subscriber.
3rd and 8 for Wekiva at the Ocoee 47.
Terrell Weathers on the carry for the Mustangs, and a late flag on the play.
Weathers, as you just heard Mark say, carries that ball. Coach Schwartz deciding to keep the ball on the ground.
Holding called against the Mustang offense. That's a 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul, and a replay of 3rd down. Except that it will be declined, and so that will just be the loss of down. As it stands, it'll become 4th down for the Mustangs. And I totally agree with that decision from Ocoee. I'd rather have Wekiva looking at 4th and 8 than at 3rd and probably 16 or 17.
And I would say this is a surprise, Mark. Wekiva's going to go for it. They got 8 yards to go, so they're not lining up and trying to pull Ocoee off sides.
Well, in fairness, if you look at last week's game, even if they did turn the ball over on downs here, it wouldn't be the worst field position they gave up.
No, but still, even a bad punt, you're still pushing the ball inside that 30-yard line.
Well, something's going to happen.
That might change. Whistles immediately.
This is either going to confirm Wekiva's decision or change it.
So Wekiva operating from the left hash mark.
Dead ball prior to the snap. Offsides called against the Knights defense. That's a 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. And a replay of 4th down. Now 4th and 4 from the 42-yard line. So now Wekiva's crazy decision looks pretty smart, as now this is a much more achievable 4th and 4 as compared to 4th and 9.
Yeah, just had any penalty you can commit, we can do better.
And sometimes that is a legitimate tactic, is just to try to draw the defense off sides and see what happens. And if they don't go for it, then you call a timeout. Of course, then you could do that.
Davis with the incomplete pass, and to be honest, I believe that was Gainey, but even
pass
if he had caught it,
for Kivell Cooper, falls incomplete. That turns the ball over on downs to the Knights. The ball will be at the 42-yard line, and Ocoee takes over from there with 1st and 10. 4 seconds to go in the first quarter. Of course, a change of possession will stop the clock, so Ocoee will get 1 snap off before they have to switch sides.
And just wanted to point out, even if Cooper had caught that ball, he should have. It was thrown right to him. But I don't think he would have gotten that first down. There was 3 Ocoee defenders. So now Darian Wharton lines up the Ocoee Knights. Number 4, the senior, 5'9", 160-pound quarterbacks, out of the shotgun. And he's going to wing it down the field, one-on-one coverage. And Ocoee wins that battle down that left sideline. 1st and 10. Inside the 25-yard line at the 21 when we begin the second quarter for Ocoee.
Pass is complete to Asad Wasim. Tyrell Gainey makes the stop and saves the touchdown, but not before the Knights pick up a big first down. The ball is spotted near the 20-yard line. And that takes us to the end of the first quarter. The Mustangs on the board first with their opening possession. 6-0 the score at the end of 12 minutes here at Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. Back with more in a moment.
No.
This season, give the gift of a healthy smile. Visit Baptiste Orthodontics and Dentistry for Kids. 3 convenient offices in Apopka, Orlando, and Windermere with braces and aligners for all ages. And exclusively in Apopka, make an appointment with Dr. Alma, our board-certified pediatric dentist.
So back to live action from Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. Wekiva with the 6-0 lead, but Ocoee threatening. Asad Wasim hauling in a 32-yard pass completion from Darian Wharton, and that has put the ball down at the Wekiva 21-yard line as we begin the second quarter. And Asad Wasim, a familiar name, Mark, a former Mustang, started his freshman season 2 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've called that name before.
Yes. In a home uniform.
Flag on the play prior to the snap. Offsides called against the Mustang defense. That's a 5-yard penalty from the previous spot and a replay of first down. So now Wekiva returning the favor that Ocoee gave them several plays ago, but this time it's inside the red zone, and now we've got more movement prior to the snap. Unless Wekiva flinched first, which I didn't see. I think this one's going to go against Ocoee. False start called against the Knights defense. 10 minus 5 plus 5 is 10. And so it's 1st and 10 now from the 20.
Yeah, in the series of any penalty you can commit, we can do better continues. That's the 3rd consecutive time the teams have alternated penalties on consecutive plays. Sun descending on Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. Handoff to someone other than Keandre Jones. He tries that left side, shakes and rattles, and gets about 3 yards, actually about 5 yards.
Jones on the carry for a pickup of 4. And that'll bring the ball to the 16-yard line. 2nd and a long 6 for the Knights.
So as Mark just said, 2nd and 6, ball at the Wekiva 17. And they keep it on, continue to keep the ball on the ground, the Ocoee Knights, that is.
Jones on the carry, stopped by Davion Watkins. And no gain on the play. It brings up 3rd and 6 for the Knights. So Watkins actually came up with the ball. Of course, it was down by contact long before that. So
Ocoee continues to operate out of the spread offense, much more of a creative spread set than Wekiva's. Going with 4 receivers. And the quick pass, nothing doing. Ball caught, but immediately on the ground.
Pass is intended for Keandre Jones. It is caught, but it's caught for a loss of 2. 4th and 8 now coming up for Ocoee. And, Neil, this is what we like to call high school no man's land. Unless you have an NFL quality kicker, that's a difficult field goal to make from there. But it's obviously too far along for a punt to make any sense. So this is, for most high school teams, 4-down territory in this area.
You're looking at a 35-yard field goal right now. Ball
so
at the
Ocoee's
18.
going to put their faith in their kicker. I really wish their gold numbers were a little bit darker.
Marlon Munoz.
Thank you.
5'7", 135 senior, and it's going to come up about 5 yards short. And you could just tell from the beginning, just not enough oomph on that.
Munoz's field goal attempt is short, and so the score remains unchanged. 6-0 Mustangs with 10 minutes, 7 seconds remaining in the first half.
We'll be back from Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium on the southeast side of Apopka.
The Mustangs will take over on downs, 1st and 10 from their own 20-yard line.
Hand off to Weathers. He pounces ahead, tanks and rumbles, and nothing fancy there. That was a trap. Lower your shoulder.
Terrell Weathers up the middle for the Mustangs. He's stopped by Davion Watkins of the Knights defense after a gain of 4 yards. 2nd and 6 coming up from the Mustangs' own 24-yard line.
You said Davion Watkins. Ocoee tackle.
Excuse me, that was Singh Joshua on the tackle. Reading the wrong side of the card here.
So 9:31 remaining. Warm, muggy, humid night here in Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium, which of course in Central Florida is not unusual. On September 2nd, the one-back set, inside handoff to Gay. He follows his black blocker, sweeping and turning upfield on that left side. A solid gain, that'll 4 yards, that'll bring up 3rd and 2.
Anthony Gay on the carry around the corner for the Mustangs for a pickup of 5 yards. Brings up 3rd and 1 from the 29.
So Wekiva continues to rely mostly on the rush, about 75 to 25% right now in favor of the rushing. And again, you're seeing we're scoring first, coming out on that opening possession and moving the ball 65 yards has its impact in terms of decision and strategy. Wekiva in a position where they really don't have to force the action. The onus is not on them. It's on Ocoee right now, and they're content keeping the ball on the ground. 3rd and 1 as we drop under 8.5 before halftime, and they're going to go back to Weathers. Skips to the right, bounces back to the left. He'll gain the first down, 6 yards, and Wekiva gets that new set of
Terrell
downs.
Weathers earns another set of downs for the Mustangs. Ball is spotted at the 34-yard line, and it's good for a Mustang. First down.
So that's a 5-yard gain for Weathers as he continues to rack up the yardage. Much like last week, Weathers, nothing spectacular for most of his carries. He did last, but when he does get loose, boy, they are quite spectacular. Last week he gained 141 yards on 4 of his 26 carries. Tonight he has 1 carry for 37 yards, and he's going to go back to work. That's the right side. Weaving, skip, hopping, and providing a couple of tackles. Cuts back to the left, still on his feet. Approaches midfield. You can hear the crowd rising to their feet. Down inside Ocoee Knight territory. And, man, he rambled all the way down to the 23-yard line.
Terrell Weathers. His Fitbit is going to be happy with him. Getting his steps in today into Knights territory down to the red zone edge at the 20-yard line for a Mustang. First down.
So it'll be 1st and 10 at the 23-yard line, as you just heard Mark say, who's also our public address announcer.
Flag on the play.
And actually,
After the play, or at the end of the play, personal foul, horse collar, is called against the Knights defense. That'll be half the distance to the goal. So, it now takes us down to the 15-yard line, 1st and 10. And another flag. Prior to the snap. False start. Called against the Mustangs. 5 yards backwards. And a replay of first down. So, Neil, again, the Knights and the Mustangs trading penalties. Week 2 jitters, perhaps.
and when all's said and done, the ball's at the Ocoee 20-yard line.
Picked off!
Now it's going to be a different set. Down the left sideline, 50-40, one man to beat, and we're going to be tied. We're tied at 6-6. Davis, for as much as we talked about him, reverted there, throwing that pass and jumping the route.
Joshua Guerriere makes the pick at the 10-yard line and goes 90 yards for an Ocoee pick six.
What was that, 90?
13 to me. Pull the replay.
So 7:39 remaining. We are tied at 6-6. Ocoee with the opportunity to take the lead. Mario Munoz steps in. He missed the field goal, which would have cut the lead at the time 7-3. So Ocoee, that was a 34-yard attempt, a 35-yard attempt. So Ocoee could have had the lead. And they will take the lead now. PAT good, no problem from Munoz, 7-6.
Munoz with the PAT, and the Knights take a 7-6 lead with 7 minutes 39 seconds remaining in the second quarter.
So a momentum shift, about as big a momentum shift as possible. An interception, give it to Joshua Guerriere, the 5'9", 165 sophomore defensive back. He also lines up as a wide receiver. And Ocoee certainly has become a much more explosive team this year as well. We talked about Wekiva, but Ocoee has certainly matched them as well. And last year, they were all about,
I think it was 13.
Austin Ware and Charles Pierre Jr. This year they have a number of new players coming in, Guerriere being one of them. Of course, he's always noticed more so on the offensive end, but they're showing his defensive wares. And now, so Wekiva will have to regain that momentum. Wekiva scored on the opening possession, moving the ball 65 yards. Terrell Weathers pounding into the end zone from 2 yards out to give them a 6-0 lead. The PAT was no good. It was short. And now Ocoee taking the lead again. They're taking its first lead of the game. Joshua Guerriere, 90-yard interception return, showing off his speed. 7-6, Ocoee, 7:34 remaining. Wekiva first and 10 at its own 35-yard line, and they're undaunted as far as the strategy. Going back to Weathers, he hops, skips,
Terrell Weathers spinning for extra yardage. He's down to the 50-yard line for Mustang first down.
So 15-yard gain for Weathers. And as Mark just said, that's Mark Barchi, the public address announcer. I'm Neil Fisher. First and 10 right at midfield. Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium, the site, on the southeast side of Apopka.
And the sky's clearing now. We had some rain right around kickoff time. We were about 15 minutes late on the kickoff.
Right next to State Route 429. This is Davis. He'll take the ball himself, the QB option, and he swings it around that left side, still on his feet, out running and running over a couple of tackles in both cases, all the way down to the 31-yard line.
Tyree Davis on the QB keeper.
A 19-yard bolt for this junior quarterback, who's looking to redeem himself after the interception, which was returned for a touchdown.
St. Joshua and Justin Sanderson saved the touchdown there with the tackle for the Knights.
And that's going to bring up the water break. 6:45 remaining. Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium is the site. 7-6, Ocoee in the lead over Wekiva in the second contest of the 2022 season. This is the Wekiva Mustangs Athletic Network. 90.
Greater Orlando area Chick-fil-A restaurants are grateful to be part of the 2022 Metro Conference football season. Play hard and eat more chicken.
It was at the 20? So back to live action. Wekiva looking to answer an interception return from Joshua Guerriere and Ocoee. They trail 7-6. This is Putman, and he really spread out and is dropped for no gain. Actually gained a yard up to the 30.
Ball spotted at the 30-yard line. Gain of 2 on the play. Second and a long 8 coming up for the Mustangs.
So 6:15 remaining as Wekiva keeps possession of the ball. 2nd and 8, as you just heard Mark say. Wekiva operating in the middle of the field. And certainly it's turned into a very nice, pleasant night here at Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium after a drizzle on and off for a couple of hours. Looking over to my right in the back right corner of the end zone, can see the Ocoee flag team. And makes no difference to the Ocoee defense as Tyree Filius dropped at the line. Actually, he's going to lose some yards.
Filius on the carry for a loss of 5 on the play. Brings up 3rd and 13 for the Mustangs from the Ocoee 35-yard line.
So an obvious passing situation. See what Davis comes up with, what the play call is, and how Davis handles it. Talked throughout last season, began this broadcast talking about Davis, not as much, but he's improved tremendously, not just physically as he grown, but just his mental acumen. And that was until his last pass when he threw the interception and was turned for a touchdown. Now he's going to try to run, trying to give some juke and jive. Does gain some yardage, but he's still going to be short, well short of that first down.
Tyree Davis on the QB keeper, and he is stopped close to the original line of scrimmage at the 32-yard line for a gain of 3. 4th and a long 10 coming up for the Mustangs. And again, this is kind of high school no man's land. So this will likely be a go-for-it on 4th down situation in spite of the long yardage. So a low percentage conversion opportunity here, but Wekiva will hope to get some momentum headed toward halftime. And to your point, Neil, Davis there didn't have a lot of options in the secondary. Good coverage by the Knights. And now it looks like the Mustangs will request their first timeout of the first half.
And where I was going, Mark, is to say that Davis has been tremendous in his decision-making, a much different player out in the field, and he's made only one critical mistake in terms of impacting the game. Unfortunately, that one mistake is the difference right now in that score. 7-6, 4:15 remaining in the second half. Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium is the site, just next to 429, State Route 429 on the southeast side of Apopka, Florida. I'd say probably about 300 fans in attendance have shown up. Of course, the marching Mustangs over to our right, they have been nonstop. Last week, they really didn't get much of an opportunity to show their wares because it was because of the rain and the overcast and moisture.
Yeah, this week you're going to see kind of a modified show from them. I talked to Mr. Grosniklas, their director, and they have had a grand total of about 2 hours of outdoor practice time over the entire month of August.
So Wekiva going back to work, 4th and 10. Davis lines him up, one back set. Weathers to his right. Bennett blocking back on the left. The play action. Plenty of time for Davis. Now the pocket collapses, rolls right, and tries to force the ball down. It was caught, and
it is
inbounds.
The pass is complete to Keval Cooper, who makes something out of nothing and gets the ball down to the 16-yard line for a Mustang first down. Boy, Neil, talk about a play that we were ready to write off.
And that, again, I was just harping on the mistake in Davis making that horrible decision, which led to the interception return. But he not only redeems himself, but that's the Tyree Davis that we've seen the last 6 months or so and that Coach Schwartz has been so high on. That was a great pass because even if Cooper didn't come down with it, no one else was going to. And now Wekiva goes back to the attack. Weathers with the
season bounds. Look at that. Terrell Weathers spinning to stay in bounds for the extra yardage, and the Mustang touchdown. What a series of 2 consecutive plays. Terrell Weathers with the spin move there to manage to stay in bounds when it looked like he was going to get shoved out, and that comes on the heels of Keval Cooper resurrecting the previous play from the dead. We thought that one was going to be nothing but a tax write-off, and Cooper gets a fresh set of downs, and then Weathers punches it in for, that was 15 yards, right, Neil?
16
yards.
Yeah, a stutter, stop-and-go move a couple of times, about 4 yards apart at the 12 and then the 8. And Ocoee, the equivalent in basketball when they say breaking the ankles with a crossover move. So now they're going for the PAT. Weathers is going to take it, and he slams ahead and give the 2 points to Wekiva, making up for the missed PAT, 14-7, 3:56 remaining.
2-point conversion is provisionally good. We do have a late flag on the play. Flag is waved off, so the 2-point conversion is good, and the Mustangs take a 14-7 lead with 3 minutes 56 seconds remaining in the second quarter.
Yeah, it was a handoff. Yeah. So 3:56 remaining. Wekiva with the 14-7 lead, going on top. A 65-yard drive consisting of 7 plays, 6 of which were rushes. But the most important play was a 16-yard completion from Tyree Davis to Cavell Cooper. And as Mark said, resurrecting it both. You could say Davis resurrected that at the front end, Cooper resurrecting it at the back end. A sensational keeping the play alive as he rolled out, stayed in bounds, threw it across his body, and Cooper doing the same on the receiving end as he was falling out of bounds. And then on the next play, Terrell Weathers continued his pound and ground attack, 16 yards for the TD, and now Ocoee.
Assad Wasim on the kickoff return. Ramel Smith gets there to make the stop. The ball is spotted just past the 25-yard line at the 27. Mustangs take over from there with the Knights take over there with first and 10. So the Mustangs, who had up to that point been running a pretty conventional game with a little razzle-dazzle there at the end of the drive, back-to-back plays with a little finesse on them. First in the air to Cooper, then on the ground with Weathers.
The pitch to Jones, and he can't turn up that right side, up the right hash mark.
Jones on the carry. Jabari Smith makes the stop for the Mustangs. That pulls the ball back to the 27-yard line for no gain. Second and 10 coming up for the Knights.
So critical moment in the game now. Wekiva re-seizing the momentum. The drive lasting 65 yards. A very impressive drive. Nothing fancy, mostly just physical. And they need to maintain that feeling, and that certainly is not what they were looking for. The long completion up the right sideline.
It is if you're Ocoee.
First pass completion of the game for Darian Wharton as well. Wekiva's been able to keep the senior quarterback under control until that pass.
Assad Wasim makes a long catch. Justin Hutchinson saves the touchdown. And that puts the ball into Mustang territory for a Knights first down at the 43-yard line.
First and 10 for Ocoee. The one-back set. Triples on the left. Motion. And Warden under pressure. He's going to run. Swings around that right sideline. And he'll gain the first down. Got himself from third to fourth to fifth gear.
Morton picks up the first down to the 27-yard line for a gain of 10. In trouble, and it's picked off. The pass is picked by Tyrell Gainey at the 2-yard line.
So Gainey, one of the transfers for Wekiva, right place, right time. And, when you get a play like that, Mark, where it's right time, right place, that's not luck. I know it might sound that way, but that's understanding the play, reading it, and anticipating.
Yeah, and the excellent work there by Gainey, who you've heard him called a couple of times. He's, of course, in the secondary for the Mustangs. He also is a wide receiver. You see that a lot in high school ball. If you understand how to catch passes in the secondary, you also understand how to defend them. And so he makes the play there. Of course, Wekiva has really, really terrible field position, but that's a small price to pay for keeping the Knights out of the red zone.
2:30 before halftime. As you heard Mark say, 1st and 10 at the Wekiva 2. So I don't think we're going to see anything
it's
fancy.
not all that bad, Neil. I'd give him the 3 at least.
Well,
flag on the play, dead ball prior to the snap. Delay of game called against the Mustangs. That'll be half the distance to the goal. And a replay of first down. All right, Neil, now it's actually that bad.
Okay. Well,
now it's at the 2.
The good news, though, is at the 2, you can only be penalized 1 yard. It's half the distance.
Fair enough.
So this is where Weathers really comes into play. Weathers carrying the ball. He does have over 100 yards already tonight. We'll get you those stats at halftime. Please remember, we do not have a statistician here at the high school level, but he does have a 30-plus yard gain and a 40-plus yard gain and a 9-yard gain.
A lot of motion prior to the snap, some realignment by the Knights defense, and sure enough, when you've got that much confusion and that much reshuffling going on, it sets up a scenario where somebody is going to blink. And now we get offsides called against the Knights defense. That's a 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. And a replay of first down. So in this case, Wekiva actually nets out ahead. 5-yard penalties in each direction, but Wekiva only lost 2 since it was half the distance to the goal. So now 1st and 8.
Out of the one-back set, and now Davis is going to go to the air. He's going to try to,
no, he didn't either.
And he's dumped. The defense collapsing quickly, raiding into that backfield. Nowhere for Davis to go.
Davis is sacked by Calvin Smith. That pulls the ball back behind the original line of scrimmage to the 3-yard line. It brings up 2nd and 11 for the Mustangs.
A 4-yard loss. And we talk about this, just as a side mark. I'm sure Davis wouldn't care if Wekiva does wind up winning this game, but that's an unfortunate situation for his individual stats. He takes a 4-yard loss when it really wasn't his fault. That was the offensive line's fault.
Yeah, I mean, you see the same thing with a bad snap. The quarterback often ends up getting dinged for the fumble when really there wasn't anything they could do about it. In this case, the snap was okay, but the offensive line just did not come through for him there. This is a much cleaner play, looking a lot better. The block's going the way of Weathers, and he manages to recover. I don't know if he got to the first down marker, but he certainly undid a lot of the damage. Terrell Weathers on the carry. St. Joshua on the stop for the Knights, and that is just enough for a Mustang first down.
So Weathers plowing and eluding, combination of some physical play as well as finesse. Continuing that trend, he's really developed that style. Again, Weathers taking over the starting running back position during the second half of last season, and that time it pays dividends. As we have less than a minute, 55 seconds. So even if Wekiva doesn't score, that first down at least assures them of being able to run out the clock and preventing Ocoee from any opportunity to score. Now we're going to go long and no flag.
Tyree Davis airs out the pass for Kevell Cooper. The secondary coverage provided by Alston Ware. It's another name that sounds familiar. Pass falls incomplete, and it brings up 2nd and 10. For those of you here in the stadium, if you are on the Ocoee side of the stands, we want to remind you that Building 10 behind you is open for restrooms and concessions. We ask that you help us to keep the crowd management in our favor by visiting the restrooms and concession stands nearest where you are seated. So if you are seated on the Ocoee side, if you would please take advantage of the restrooms and concessions available behind you in Building 10. And if you're sitting on the Wekiva side, then of course the concession stand and restrooms in Building 9 are available to you.
So Tyree Davis, as there's now 42 seconds remaining, 6 of 14 last week for 36 yards. And now he hands that ball off to Weathers,
Terrell
his
Weathers
running
is
buddy.
forced to step out of bounds by Calvin Smith. That is worth a gain of 4 before he was pushed out. It takes the ball up to the 19-yard line and brings up 3rd and 6.
This is 16.
And it looks like by the time we got the spot official,
Maybe
it's
7,
more like
8.
the 17-yard line. Still 3rd and a long 6, or a short 7 if you prefer.
36 seconds remaining in the first half. Wekiva with the 14-7 lead. So 2nd and 5, and we're not going to get the play off. The penalties continue.
Flag on the play.
So talked about it at the beginning of the broadcast, Mark.
Prior to the snap.
From the Wekiva standpoint, they had 17 penalties last week, but both these teams have contributed to the penalty total tonight.
Illegal substitution is called against the Mustangs. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot on a replay of 3rd down.
So what was 3rd and 5 is now, as Mark said, 3rd and 10. Much different situation, 36 seconds remaining. And now if you're Wekiva, you do have to be careful here. You don't want to, you want to take some time off that clock, 36 seconds remaining. Even if you don't get that first down, you don't want to keep the door open for Ocoee. And Davis is going to do just that on the quarterback draw. Shimmies to his right, still on his feet now, motoring down that right sideline. And the perfect play for Wekiva.
Tyree Davis on the QB draw, finally taken out of bounds by Zachary Toby of the Knights defense, but not before he picks up a Mustang. First down.
And Davis totes the ball all the way out to the 33-yard line. So that's a 21-yard gain for the quarterback. And now Wekiva can run out the clock as we get a timeout with 9 seconds remaining.
Mustangs take their 2nd timeout of the first half. 9 seconds to go here in the 2nd quarter. The Mustangs leading 14-7. Once again, we'd like to thank Dr. Elizabeth Davis and her team at Orlando Health Jewett Orthopedic Institute. Team physicians here at Wekiva, off the field and on the field, they provide a full spectrum of orthopedic services in all specialties and subspecialties. Hip, knee, shoulder experts, orthopedic traumatology, and much more. They have proven leading-edge technologies and techniques to provide patients world-class personalized care from a number of convenient locations throughout Central Florida. You can learn more at orlandohealth.com/sports. Orlando Health. Choose well. Welcome back to Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. 9 seconds left in the first half. Wekiva figures, well, nothing to lose. We might as well design the best play we can. We're all but certainly going to go into halftime with the lead, so let's see what we can do.
And they'll run this last play of the first half, one back set. And not a pass, just a straight handoff to Weathers.
That was an awfully conventional play for a timeout to be called, but we'll go with that. Samaj Scott gets his first touch of the night and runs for 3 yards. That runs out the clock, and it takes us to halftime. 14-7 is the score at intermission here in week 2 of season 16. The Mustangs lead the Knights by 7 at the break. Don't go anywhere. Band performances coming up from Ocoee and Wekiva.
Right camera is going to be the wide one. The left camera will be close up. For now, don't touch it. Oh yeah, he sent me what he sent. Is this Ocoee? Yes, from Ocoee. He just relayed the message. So this is for the Knights band.
And now, please welcome to the field the Ocoee Knights Marching Band. Tonight's show features vignettes from their 2022 repertoire, including Ring My Bell, Hold On, and Beggin'. our bands get ready to switch, we want to again thank the Knights for joining us tonight and giving us their presentation. Ring light bell, hold on a minute. We also would like to remind you, while we are paused here at halftime, that we do have Building 10 and Building 9 open for restrooms and concessions, and we would ask if you please use the facilities that are closest to where you are seated. That helps us to manage the crowd and prevent overcrowding in any one area or the other. So if you are seated on the Ocoee side of the field, please take advantage of Building 10 behind you, where the restrooms and concession stands are open. If you are on the Wekiva home side of the stadium, then we would invite you to use the restrooms and concession stands in Building 9. We appreciate your cooperation. And just so you know, you're not missing out on anything. Exactly the same offerings are available in Building 10 and Building 9.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again for coming out to Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium here at Wekiva High School. Now entering the field, your Wekiva High School Marching Mustangs. The band is under the field command of drum majors Miranda Hennessy and Jarmitria Martin. The band captain is Jeffrey Exame, and the drum captains are Mackay Jackson and Jameson Jean Charles. Tonight, the band will be performing for your halftime entertainment the opening to our 2022 field show, West Side Story, featuring Tonight.
And as the band is taking the field, we want you to notice something very unique.
Our band is wearing brand new uniforms for the first time since the school opened. Don't they look fantastic? This is truly a band you've never seen before here at Wekiva High School. Drum majors Miranda Hennessy and Jarmitria Martin. Is the band ready? You may now begin your halftime performance. big round of applause for your Wekiva High School Marching Mustangs. The Wekiva High School Band is under the direction of Mr. Joshua Grosniklas. The assistant director is Mr. Frank Taylor. The percussion instructor is Mr. Justin Eubanks. And the color guard instructor is Mr. Michael McKee. We would like to thank the generous donors who have supported the band program this year, including our own Dr. Drayton, Bennett Road Automotive Service, Bowen Brothers Transportation, Central Florida Pulmonary Group, Orlando Import Auto Specialists, and Orlando Web Concepts. And thank you to our wonderful audience for your love and support of the Wekiva High School Marching Mustangs.
Welcome once again to Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium, where we are at halftime. We just heard from the Ocoee and Wekiva marching bands. We welcome you into the press box now. My name is Mark Barchi, voice of the Mustangs and sports information director here at Wekiva. Next to me to my left, Mr. Neil Fisher from the Apopka Chief. Both of us have been covering Wekiva football all 16 seasons. And Neil, still some cleanup work to be done, particularly in the penalties department, and a couple of big plays given up. But all in all, you have to like what you've seen if you're the Wekiva coaching staff so far.
This game is really taking on the same feel and direction that last week's did. You did mention a couple of mistakes. The obvious mistake is the interception thrown by Tyree Davis. Joshua Guerrier, the defensive back, intercepting it at the 20, motoring down that left hash mark, weaving slightly as well, eventually scoring 80 yards later and along the left sideline.
Yeah, I think if you had to point to a momentum turning point of the first half, it was that back-to-back sequence of two plays there. First, the reception to Cooper, and then that spin move to stay in bounds by Davis that scored the touchdown. That was really the moment that you knew that in spite of the penalty mistakes and in spite of the big plays given up, that Wekiva was still very much in control of the momentum of this ballgame.
Yeah, and where I was going, Mark, was simply to point out that that was really the only mistake they've made. We talked about this. I know it maybe sounds like a dead horse, especially if you were listening to the game last week. But Tyree Davis has just grown so much, not just physically, not just the fact he's about 6 inches higher, and he's put on probably 20, 22 pounds more of muscle, but his decision-making has just improved so much. He's such a better leader. He stays calm. He stays poised, and so much of that had to do with the fact that as soon as last season ended, he was, for all intent and purposes, regardless of why, he did win the starting position for 2022 by default, but regardless of why, he came in as the unchallenged number one guy. We knew from the time last season ended that Tyree was going to be the starting quarterback, and he made one mistake, and that was, of course, the interception return we just talked about. But piggybacking on what you were saying is, I think, not only for Davis, but again, as the quarterback goes, how a quarterback handles himself, that does filter through the rest of the team, starting with the offense. And he came back along with the team, and they showed great maturity as a whole. On that next drive, they lost the lead, dropping 7-6. They go 65 yards, 7 plays, and as you mentioned, Mark, the two big plays, really the eye catchers, was that Davis to Kevon Cooper, who, by the way, missed the preseason Kickoff Classic along with the the first game of the season due to an ACL. He had been recovering since spring practice. We described it in great detail, front end, back end. Davis with the throw, Cooper with the reception. Both of them worked that sideline, did the tiptoe down the sideline. A 16-yard completion, which set up first and goal from the it got him to the 16-yard line, and then on the very next play, Terrell Weathers surged ahead using that right side, going behind his guard and tackle. 16 yards, busted a couple of tackles as he motored down about halfway between the yard line markers where the numbers are in the sideline, between the 5 and 10-yard line. Gets into the end zone. Go for the 2-point conversion. Nothing fancy. Weathers going on the trap, lowered his shoulders, and pounded into the end zone. Wekiva goes up 14-7. Their other score, and I think this is also important too, Mark, maybe not in terms of directly, but I think it really established a tone, and that was on the opening possession, the third consecutive game, including the preseason Kickoff Classic. Wekiva moved the ball 65 yards, 11 plays, and they take that 6-0 lead as soon as possible. Weathers doing the damage there, scoring from 1 yard out on the rush. And speaking of Weathers, he is putting together another monster game. 17 rushes, 146 yards at halftime, and a TD.
So now the Knights will have the opening possession of the second half. They won the toss, and that is what they elected. So they'll get a first crack at the ball here in the third quarter.
And I also want to point out, Mark, too, the defense, remember those 7 points, that was an interception return. And you look at last week, the starters gave up, or you could say the main rotation, gave up only 7 points. And they've given up a total of 7 points in 3 games now, again, including that preseason Kickoff Classic. That's the defense, the main rotation of the defense. And I would point to that as Ocoee's going to take over 1st and 10 at their own 42-yard line. So good starting field position. That defense is why the interception return probably didn't hit Wekiva in terms of impact as it could have.
Innocence kickoff is returned by Guerriere from about the 28-yard line to the 41, and so Ocoee will start their first possession of the second half from there.
Also looking at your quarterback, Tyree Davis. Four 7 for 40 yards in a TD. And Ocoee begins the second half, just like they did most of the first half. The quick handoff to Kyandre Jones, the 1,200-yard rusher last year. Of course, he did that for Apopka. And once again, just talked about the defense coming up big, not giving them any room to operate, not just the running back, but the entire backfield. So that continues, the defensive dominance and their physical disturbance. 2nd and 10 at the Ocoee 41-yard line as we begin the second half. 14-7 lead for Wekiva. Second game of the season for both these teams. Jones again, this time from the right side, spinning ahead, using his weight, and he'll pick up a couple of yards.
Jones on the carry, Sincere Edwards on the stop, gain of 3 on the play. 3rd and 7 coming up for the Knights.
You said that was Jones, right? You said that was Jones. Oh, okay. So it'll be 3rd and 7 from the Ocoee 44. Wekiva's showing blitz. They got 5 men at the line of scrimmage. And the pass, Ware drops back, rolls left. Lots of time, but great coverage downfield. Secondary getting into the act. And now he's going to try turning it upfield. Someone hit him hard along that left sideline. and studied his momentum, and then I believe that was Matthew Perkins, the nickelbacks, coming in and cleaning up, making that final tackle. In any case, it's a 3 and out to start the second half for Ocoee, the least afforded situation.
Perkins makes the stop after the aborted pass attempt, and that is good for some forward progress, but not enough. It brings up 4th and 4 for the Knights.
So the first punt of the night for either team, and we're not going to get it off. We've had penalties throughout the game, so this should not be unusual.
We almost had a punt earlier, and it ended up not happening off of a penalty. About the same spot on the field, too.
So
prior to the snap, illegal substitution called against the Mustangs. And you see Coach Swartz trying to get some clarification from the officials there.
Yeah, we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast 17 penalties last week for Wekiva. Now 6 or 7 of them did occur in the last 4.5 minutes when the non-starters were taken out.
That puts the ball into Mustang territory at the 47-yard line, and it is enough for an Ocoee first down.
But Coach Schwartz was very vehement in disagreeing with about 4 or 5 of those penalties. The pitch to Jones, and he's immediately swallowed up.
12.
Busted defense.
Pitch to Jones. Cargill is there to make the stop. Hayes is there to finish, and it's a loss of 1 on the play. 2nd and 11 coming up for the Knights.
So we're also seeing another trend emerging from the defense. They've made some penalties which have allowed the possessions to continue. There was the second time tonight. They've been able to overcome those penalties so far and get the team off the field on the next series of downs. Back to the pass, lobbed over the middle, and broken up by Hutchinson.
Broken up by Justin Hutchinson, and that will bring up 3rd and 11 for the Knights.
So great play by Hutchinson down that right sideline, forcing the receiver to not really have any room to operate. Even if he had caught the ball, the receiver that is, he would have been out of bounds. Great coverage, taking away any space to make the catch. And as Mark said, 3rd and 10 now. And same situation on the shorter pass. Ball was
Pass is complete to Assad Wasim, pushed out of bounds by Justin Hutchinson. It is short of first down yardage. That'll bring up 4th down from the 41.
So 4th and 5, as Mark just pointed out. And a timeout before we run the play. I believe that was Ocoee calling the timeout.
No, it's a penalty. Offsides called against the Mustangs. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot, and it's enough for an Ocoee first down.
So,
well, Neil, I feel like a broken record here, but once again,
yes.
Wekiva's donating first downs on penalties.
Yeah, especially since I just pointed it out.
Do you have in front of you how many first downs Ocoee has tonight versus how many were by penalty?
That I do not have.
It was a lot.
But I can tell you that as Jones, I believe that's Jones, with strings out, great coverage from the middle of the defensive line.
Davion Watkins gets the TFL against Guerriere.
So Guerriere caught in the backfield, and that's, about 6-yard loss, Mark?
Yeah, it pulls the ball all the way back to the 41-yard line. More laundry on the field. Flag on the play. Sideline warning called against the Mustangs. That is no penalty the first time. Still 2nd down.
So 2nd and 16 as Ocoee lines up. Both these teams go to the spread. Ocoee, though, more diverse and creative. They're running 2 receivers on each side. The far sideline, they're stacked. The one-back set, Wekiva remaining now. They've blitzed somewhat tonight, but they're remaining in that 4-man set. Slung off that right side. And just a couple of yards for Jones. We'll move the ball to the Wekiva 39.
Rel Smith makes the stop on the Jones carry, a pickup of 3. 3rd and 12 coming up for the Knights.
So over the middle, incomplete.
And a flag.
There's a flag.
Pass intended for Assad Wasim falls incomplete. Jabari Smith had the secondary coverage. We have a flag in the backfield. Illegal receiver downfield is called against the Knights. That penalty is declined, and the result of the play is 4th and 12.
So 14-7, Wekiva keeps that lead. The possession comes to an end. This time, Ocoee gets a couple of penalties, and the result is a couple of series of downs. But Wekiva, in the end, is able to hold Jones, as well as Ware when he goes back to the pass. And there won't be a return. Whoa, that ball, give him an A for height, but a C for distance. Just didn't go anywhere forward.
The Knights will kick the ball away, and the Mustangs will take over at right about the 24-yard line or so.
So Ocoee chews up almost half of that third quarter, 6:51 remaining, but they are unable to really move the ball and mount any type of serious threat. They did get a couple first downs, but they started at their own 41-yard line.
And we have reached the midpoint of the third quarter, so we'll pause for an official timeout. Back in a moment from Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. Baptiste Orthodontics and Dentistry for Kids is a proud sponsor of Wekiva Football. With 3 convenient offices in Apopka, Orlando, and Windermere, it's never been easier to have a healthy new smile with braces and aligners for all ages, plus dentistry for kids, exclusively in Apopka. Snap away, and Weather is going around the outside. He's wrapped up pretty quickly, though, for a short gain.
Wekiva with the 14-7 lead as we hit 6:40 remaining in the third quarter. They have led except for one possession.
Terrell Weathers picks up 2 on the opening play of the drive for the Mustangs, pulls the ball out to the 24-yard line from the 22. 2nd and 8 coming up.
Actually, that was 6 plays. Wekiva opened the scoring on an 11-play, 65-yard drive. Terrell Weathers pounding into the end zone, pushing his way in from 1 yard out. Then an interception return for Joshier Guerrier. That was 80 yards. Tyree Davis throwing that interception, and we're going to get a penalty on 2nd down.
There was some movement there. The question is who moved first.
And then on the very next possession, which started about midway through, about 10 minutes remaining before halftime.
Dead ball. False start called against the Mustang offense. That's a 5-yard penalty from the previous spot and a replay of 2nd down.
So Wekiva takes the lead on the possession immediately following the interception return, 80 yards from Joshua Guerrier. That started roughly 10 minutes remaining before halftime. It was a rather quick drive. Just took about 3 minutes. And only, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was actually 7 plays, and it actually started about 6 minutes remaining. We'll get back to that in a minute. Wekiva, 2 receivers on the near sideline. Davis back to the air. He's going deep over the middle. It's got a man and too tall.
Pass intended for Joshua Bennett falls incomplete. That'll bring up 3rd and 13 for Wekiva. Boy, that was beautiful work in the secondary by Bennett. Got open, beat the entire Knights secondary, and had nothing but daylight in front of him. If only that pass had been about 3 or 4 yards shorter.
So the key plays on that drive, which put Wekiva ahead, was a 16-yard completion. Davis to Kevel Cooper is making his first appearance this season. He had a torn ACL, and then on the very next play, that completion brought the ball down to the 16-yard line. Terrell Weathers bounced into the end zone from the 16 yards, and now 3rd and long, nothing doing. Good defense. That was Ware, the senior defensive back, 5'10", 165.
Pass intended for
Along
Tyrell
with-
Gainey, falls incomplete, and that'll bring up 4th and long for Wekiva. So here's a situation where Wekiva is going to have no choice but to punt it away. I believe this is Wekiva's first
Yes,
punting
it is their
situation
first
of the
punt.
night.
So both teams unable to really move the ball down the field. Wekiva unable to get any first downs. Ocoee got a couple, albeit both of them were via penalties from Wekiva. But their drive did eventually stall at the Wekiva 38.
And now we're starting to get some rainfall here again at Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium in South Apopka. Fortunately, it seems to be fairly light. We don't have any thunder or lightning activity going along with that, so at least for the moment, no threats to any kind of game stoppage. It's just making a slightly less comfortable experience for fans.
So if defense is your cup of tea, you certainly have come to the right game. Granted, some of that defense is not of the team's doing. It's been the opponents, as we mentioned, a number of penalties on both sides. But nonetheless, it's a 14-7 score, 5:49 remaining in the 3rd quarter.
And all of you watching at home are thinking about what a great idea it was to enjoy a cup of tea from your living room. We always, of course, would rather have as many of our fans here in person as we possibly can, but we are delighted to be able to provide these live streams in partnership with Varsity Sports Network, which is based here in Orlando, as well as YouTube and the NFHS Network, bringing you all of this coverage so that we can reach more of our fans. And if you're an Ocoee fan, we welcome you to the broadcast as well. We are an equal opportunity broadcaster. Or if you're just a fan of Florida football who likes to keep up with what's going on.
And that's Noah Putnam with the punt. And again, nothing spectacular, not a great one, but gets the roll. And one of those plays where you executed to the point of it was solid and you didn't put your team in a hole.
Putnam on the punt and minimal return from the Knights. That puts the ball in Ocoee territory at the 37-yard line. They'll start their next drive from there.
5:37 remaining. Wekiva in front by that 14-7 score. Both these teams, second regular season game. Wekiva winning last week against Olympia. They came in ranked 15th, went up a couple spots in the Orlando Sentinel Super 16. Looking to follow that up with another victory, go 2-0 in the regular season, three victories, including the preseason, and that certainly is going to help give the sack to Sincere Edwards, the big man, the face of the defense, who we have not called out yet tonight.
Sincere Edwards on the sack of Chandler Pierre. That pulls the ball back 2 yards and brings up 2nd and 12 for the Knights.
And give credit to Davian Watkins, Edwards' running mate. Watkins almost got the sack, but he forced Ware to remain in that backfield. And now 2nd and 12, as Mark just pointed out. Wekiva looking to get a 3-and-out here certainly would help them. Ware with different ideas going long, and both players have a hand on the ball, but it's the receiver coming down with it. And certainly a big play for Ocoee after the Edwards sack. So momentum keeps shifting back and forth.
Jaden Wright and Justin Hutchinson going head-to-head for the ball. Wright comes down with it, though, and it is a big first down for Ocoee down into Mustang territory at the 23. And now taking aim at the end zone. This time the Knights not able to come down with it. That was Greg Jones on the coverage for Wekiva. I believe Ware was the intended receiver.
So it'll be 2nd and 10 from the 27, the Wekiva 27, and movement on the line.
Laundry on the field. False start called against the Knights offense. 5-yard penalty from previous spot and a replay of 2nd down.
Ware calls out the signal, operating again out of the spread. They use a slot receiver on the right this time. Doubles on the far sideline. And the pass, he runs right, the left side, right runs left, right side closed. Interception by Hutchinson. One-on-one coverage. Snags the ball out of the air. And that brings the Ocoee threat to an end.
Ramel Smith makes the pick in the end zone and takes the ball out, and the Mustangs will take over.
So Wekiva will take over, 1st and 10 at their own 20, 14-7, 4:27 remaining. Ocoee looking to get their first win of the season after losing a heartbreaker last week to Wekiva, led 12-0 entering the 4th quarter, lost 13-12, and I believe that's Weathers back to work, the familiar style. Some finesse and about 75% power, lowering the shoulder. 5-yard gain. Solid gain on 1st down. And so Ocoee, another opportunity, goes by the wayside for them with that interception. And now Wekiva, I know we still have quite a bit of time left, 16 minutes roughly, but certainly they are in the position. They might want to start taking some time off, maybe not directly, but if they can get a couple of big gains here, that'll take us to the end of the 3rd quarter.
Terrell Weathers on the carry for the Mustangs. That's a pickup of about 3 yards. It brings up 3rd and 7 from the Mustangs' 23-yard line. Again, we want to welcome those of you who are joining us on YouTube or the NFHS Network or Varsity Sports Network. We are proud to be simulcasting on all 3 of those services. And we want to thank our friends at Wekiva TV Broadcast Production under the direction of Mr. Keith Dickerson, partnering with us here at Wekiva Athletics to bring you some live streaming week after week. We're very proud of the work that they do and that they help us to do.
And
right up the middle there, that's going to be Jalen Putman on the carry. And that'll be a loss on the play back to the 19-yard line, and it brings up 4th and 11. So Wekiva goes 3 and out for, I believe, only the 2nd time this game. If you're watching on YouTube, we are up to 1,998 subscribers. You could be the 2,000th. Unfortunately, all you get for that is bragging rights. But we'd love it if you would help us to get there. That's a great milestone for us to achieve and a real signal of the strength of our following on multiple live streaming media platforms. And this one looks like it's not going to be touched by Ocoee. They're going to let Wekiva down that after it rolls just a little bit backwards.
so
Ball is spotted at the 45-yard line. The Knights will start from there in Mustang territory right after the break.
So both teams with 1 possession and neither team moving the ball very far. Ocoee getting 2 first downs on its first possession. No first downs on the 3 other, and that keeps the score at 14-7. 2:03 remaining in the 3rd quarter. So Ocoee will go back to work. Terrell Weathers, the senior running back for Wekiva, 158 yards now, 147 in the first half, as he bolted and busted and banged and pounded, along with a little finesse, about 80-20, to those stats. It will be his second consecutive game of 100-plus yards. And now the big man in terms of impact for Ocoee, Kayande Jones, he takes that ball straight ahead.
Jones on the carry for 2, and it brings up 2nd and 8 for the Knights from the Mustang 43. Of course, with the umbrellas going up here at Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium, we're watching the exact same feed that you are because we actually can't see the game out of the press box here. But we are appreciative of our fans who are sticking with us through the wet weather. We're appreciative of those of you sipping on your cup of tea in your living room as well.
And an excellent play action by Warden. Unfortunately, his offensive line did not live up to that quality of play. And he goes down, actually a loss of a yard, so that is officially a sack.
Loss of 1 on the play, bringing up 3rd and 8 for the Knights. And we see the Ocoee offensive line looking to the sideline for direction there. Under a minute to play here in the third.
Warden
Shotgun snap, lots of time, and has a man, but Wekiva secondary helping to make sure that one doesn't connect. Intended receiver was Tavion Greaves. Jabari Smith on the secondary coverage, and it'll bring up 4th and long for Ocoee. So we've had both teams get a bit into the doldrums here in the third quarter. Not a lot of spectacular offensive production on either side. Of course, Wekiva being up by a score, that is an advantage to them. This one is going to bounce its way to the 20-yard line out of bounds, so Wekiva will not have a returning opportunity there.
Yeah, the onus right now is on Ocoee to make something happen.
Yeah, at this point, trading 3 and outs is not going to do it, or even just a single first down.
So I would say up to this point, as we have 36 seconds left in the third quarter, and Wekiva holding that 14-7 lead, at least from the Wekiva perspective, is well, we started out good. We started out great, taking a 7-0 lead. Tyree Davis directing a 65-yard, 11-play drive. Since then, though, we have grinded to a standstill in terms of the quality, and that should bring well, we might have one more play. And there again, you see the onus being on Ocoee. Wekiva not really in a hurry or any desire to show any more creativity. They're just running that ball.
Tyree Davis on the QB keep for no gain. 2nd and 10 coming up for the Mustangs. And they have enough time on the play clock. It's really up to them whether they want one more snap in the third quarter or not. It looks like they are not interested, and they're going to let the last 3 seconds tick away. So that takes us to the end of the third quarter. And the Mustangs hold on to their halftime lead. 14-7 is your score with 12 minutes left in the contest here in Week 2 from Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium.
And so that other touchdown was scored, 7-play drive. 7-play drive consuming 65 yards. Terrell Davis busting that ball in from 16 yards out, his second touchdown of the game, and that came right after an interception return, an 80-yard return from Joshua Guerrier. The only mistake that Tyree Davis has really made in the regular season.
For those of you here in the stadium, we'd like to remind you that if you are depending on a ride to get home from tonight's game, if you've not already done so, give them a call and let them know that we are headed into the fourth quarter, and they can pick you up from the bus loop. That's down at the north end of campus with the faculty entrance. You'll find much less traffic down there, so you'll not be competing with those who drove who are getting out of the parking lot. We appreciate your cooperation, your help getting our administrators home to their families. Looking for a savory breakfast option before school? Enjoy a warm, buttery Chick-fil-A chicken biscuit. Flavorful, hand-breaded, tender chicken paired with a lightly buttered biscuit makes the perfect start to your early morning. And so the opening play of the fourth quarter does not look any more spectacular than most of the third, as Davis makes the handoff there and falls further behind. A loss of 2 on the play brings up 3rd and 13 for the Mustangs from their own 17-yard line. So far, Neil, the highlight reel will definitely be headlined by the series of 2 plays that we saw midway through the second quarter. That incredible completion to Kevel Cooper, keeping it in bounds and then setting up the ensuing 16-yard touchdown run by Terrell Weathers. Looked like he was only going to get about 8 yards out of that, and then that last-second spin move to break the tackle, get into the end zone. The pass intended for Tyrell Gainey falls incomplete, and that'll be 3 and out for Wekiva.
Yeah, and that could have been a highlight reel play, but there's what I was talking about as we came to the end of the third quarter. Just Wekiva's really, the quality of their plays grinded into a standstill after that opening drive. As you mentioned, that pass completion from Davis to Cooper, and then the 16-yard touchdown rush from Weathers. That was actually the second touchdown. That put them up 14-7. But their play in the first quarter, where they came out, as Keith Jackson would say, looking like $1 million and a barn burner. But since then, other than those 2 plays, it has been pretty much pedestrian. Fortunately, the defense has forced Ocoee into the same.
Punt away from Noah Putnam, and it makes it just past midfield. And their Knights will take over from there with 1st and 10. And yeah, Neil, I mean, to your point, I think pedestrian is just the right word for it. Wekiva has not done anything openly or spectacularly foolish, but they've also not done anything openly or spectacularly awesome either. And so, again, if you have the advantage of being up by a touchdown, you can sort of rest on your laurels there. But if you look down the season at what Wekiva has ahead, Edgewater, Apopka, Jones, there's a lot of Sentinel Super 16 schools in the middle to back side of the schedule this year, and Wekiva is going to need to put together some consistent high-energy performance, and the high energy that we saw in the first half has just kind of fizzled here so far since halftime.
Yeah, now, with that said, remember, it is only the second game of the season. Wekiva comes in 1-0. They had an impressive 36-21 victory over Olympia, and I believe that's Jones. And really only the 3rd or 4th eye-catching rush for the former Apopka Blue Darter, the face of the Ocoee offense.
Jones on the carry. Hayes on the stop. That's good for a first down at the 42-yard line of Mustang territory.
So a 10-yard gain. As Mark said, 1st and 10 at the Wekiva 42 now.
There's the handoff to Jones again. He gets wrapped up quickly.
And you might not be able to see the rain. It is a light drizzle, but nonetheless, it is a wet conditions, which means the ball in the field is wet.
Jones on the play. Knight and Cargill on the stop. Gain of 1. 2nd and 9 coming up.
Wekiva 41. And now they're going to try to run under pressure. And we've seen this a lot tonight. Warden just unable to plant his feet, having to run, get stretched out down the sideline.
Donovan Knight shoves Pierre out of bounds, and that will bring up 3rd and 4 for Ocoee.
So actually a 5-yard gain for Warden. Thought that was only a couple yards, but that will set up 3rd and 5, as Mark said, much more manageable. From the Wekiva 36, 9:27 remaining. Ocoee needs a win. They lost their opener.
Although I think they outperformed expectations.
Well, they did come in number 8. That's the highest rank they've ever been in the Sentinel Super 16. And again, I'm not a coach, but as someone who has followed football for 30-plus years, actually 40, not sure why they went with the handoff.
Jones on the carry, Omar Hayes on the stop. That'll be a loss of 1, and it brings up 4th and 5 for Ocoee.
And there, to my point, as I said when we began this series of downs, it's not just Wekiva who has been pedestrian. Both teams have been pedestrian. As you mentioned, both these coaches Coach Schwartz for Wekiva and Coach Shepard for Ocoee. Neither of them really willing to take not even a slight chance. Although as soon as I say that, we got the fake attempt, but nothing doing. The special team snuffed that out from the beginning.
Alston Ware tries to get a fake punt opportunity. Noah Putnam is ready for it and turns into a big TFL instead, and the Mustangs will take over on downs. Ball spotted at the 46-yard line of Ocoee territory. Wekiva takes over from there. So that perhaps will inject a little life into Wekiva. We'll have to see if their offense can come up to the standards of special teams on defense.
Yeah, and that 10-yard loss, that's important. I mentioned that that puts them 10 yards closer. And here you're seeing they got room to operate.
Great blocking for Weathers. He's still got some room. Finally pushed out of bounds. Terrell Weathers on the carry. Guerriere finally pushes him out of bounds, but not before he gets deep into Knights territory for a Mustang. First down.
Yeah, Weathers slinking through that right hash mark, moving left to right, and then weaving, taking a 45-degree angle. And when it's all said and done, they are at the 30s at the 20-yard line.
I got the 26.
26, okay. So that is a 28-yard gain for Weathers, who's now threatening 200 yards. And this time it's Davis.
Tyree Davis on the outside route, and he picks up a gain of 4. 2nd and 6 coming up for Wekiva. A fairly conventional play there, but solid results. And there you see the Knights getting into the stands tunes. It is so nice that the rain has held up to be light enough that we're able to continue to get that atmosphere from both the Mustang and the Ocoee marching bands. Makes all the difference.
And Davis will take it for a 2nd consecutive rush.
Anthony Gay on the carry.
Gay.
That puts the ball right around the 20-yard line for a pickup of 2 more. It brings up 3rd and 4 for the Mustangs. So again, Wekiva, as you mentioned, Neil, or as you predicted, sticking to some more conventional run-the-clock-out kind of plays. They, of course, are in control of the game, and so they're taking a little bit more conservative approach in their play selection compared to Ocoee, who has been going for the long ball a little bit more often.
Much more deliberate, too.
Weathers takes the handoff and gets his legs taken out from under him by Smith. That's Terrell Weathers on the carry. Calvin Smith making the stop. And the ball is spotted at the 22-yard line. That is short of first down yardage.
Speaking of Weathers, he didn't show it on that, but he does have 183 yards now. So as I mentioned, he is threatening the 200-yard mark.
Yeah, certainly he has
22 carries. So.
Yeah, he has more touches by an order of magnitude than anybody else on the Mustang offense tonight.
4th and 4 for Wekiva at the Ocoee 22, 14-7 lead. 1 back set, blocking back on the right, Weathers on the left. 2 receivers on the right, and they're going to go to the air, and they're going to go for it all. Wide open, Gay.
Can't get back to it. Davis looking for Anthony Gay. The pass falls incomplete, and that turns the ball over on downs to the Knights. And, Neil, that's a heartbreaker. Gay was wide open and just misread the route a little bit. Not able to get back to it in time once he realized where the ball was going.
Miscommunication between quarterback and receiver, and even if he had been able to come up with that ball, even though he wouldn't have been able to get into the end zone, because once your knees, he would have caught the ball on his knee, so it would have been a dead play. But still, 6.5 minutes left, Wekiva would have had the ball at around the 5-yard line. They would have certainly have given Ocoee a couple of body blows.
And we have reached the midpoint of the fourth quarter, and so we will pause for an official timeout, our last of the game. Back in a moment for the conclusion of Week 2 here at Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. This season, give the gift of a healthy smile. Visit Baptiste Orthodontics and Dentistry for Kids with 3 convenient offices in Apopka, Orlando, and Windermere, offering braces and aligners for all ages. And exclusively in Apopka, you can make an appointment with Dr. Alma, their board-certified pediatric dentist. We also, for those of you in the stadium, want to remind you one more time, we're going into the last 6 minutes. And so if you need to call a ride to make sure they are here and ready to pick you up from the North Bus Loop, we would appreciate your cooperation. Welcome back to Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium as we get ready for the last 6.5 minutes of tonight's game. And we're going to get a TFL that is courtesy of Davion Watkins on the stop for a loss of 2. 2nd and 12 coming up for Ocoee from their own 18-yard line.
So 6 minutes exactly remaining in the game. Ocoee trailing 14-7. They have a long way to go at their own 22-yard line against this nasty Wekiva defense, and that continues. We're lucky to get back to the line of scrimmage. Had to do some dancing.
Where on the QB keeper, stopped by Kadar Cargo, and he gets back to the original line of scrimmage for a gain of 2. 3rd and 10 coming up from the Knights' own 20-yard line. Ocoee seems to be in a habit now, after they saw Wekiva fall for it several times in the first half, of trying to draw the Mustangs off sides and then going to the sideline for the actual play call. Of course, when they're down by 1 touchdown with 5 minutes left in the game, you don't want to do that too often. And now we're going to get a sack. That's Sincere Edwards comes up with his 2nd sack of the night.
The UCF commit didn't call his name in the first half. We've called it twice in the second half, as Mark just alluded to, when Wekiva needed defense to keep control of this game, to keep the onus on Ocoee. Well, he has busted through that line and made his presence felt.
Loss of 9 on the play. 4th and 19 coming up for the Knights. And they will, of course, have to kick the ball away. Starting to run out of time here, especially with the doldrum pace that we've had here since halftime, and that is going to get a lot of altitude, so at least Wekiva won't be able to return it, but not a ton of distance. And so the Mustangs will take over at the... We have a flag on the play in the backfield.
It's roughing the punter, Mark. Now, roughing the punter, I believe that was Justin Hutchinson who could not pull up, and Ocoee's punter hit the deck hard. So 14-7, Ocoee trailing Wekiva. This is the second game of the regular season.
And here you see the officials huddle as they try to straighten out what's going to happen as the result of that flag on the play.
Wekiva took an impressive 36-21 victory over Olympia to open the season. The score was actually a lot closer than the play indicated. It was 36-7, 4.5 minutes remaining. Wekiva looking to follow up, get off to that 2-0 start. Ocoee, on the other hand.
There we go. That's what was confusing me before. Roughing the kicker is called against the Mustang defense. What had confused me at first was that the official signaled roughing the kicker and then pointed at Ocoee's direction. I thought, you can't rough your own kicker.
Yeah, I know you were looking at where the ball was traveling to, but I did watch the action around the punter, and it was obvious, Mark, that you know, you don't have to be a football guru, you don't have to be a referee or an umpire to throw that flag. It was contact.
And so that will give a first down to Ocoee. And that puts the ball at the 29-yard line. So, Neil, again, I've lost count at this point, but chalk another one down for first down by penalty. Especially first down on penalty on fourth down. I can anecdotally think of at least 3 or 4 of those that have happened tonight.
Me too, likewise.
And the Knights punch through the first line of defense by Wekiva. Second line gets them, though. That was, that was Smith. Jabari Smith makes the stop on the carry by Jones. Gain of 9. Second and inches coming up for the Knights. And now a TFL, and we're going to get a flag as well. Jones on the carry. Omar Hayes on the stop. Late flag in the backfield.
And this is where the sack by Edwards on third down is really coming into play.
Personal foul called against the Mustangs. That's a 15-yard penalty from the end of the play, and another Knights first down.
So as I was saying, that sack from Edwards, think about where Wekiva would be without it. It's about 10 yards difference. Ocoee would be at around their 40, about the 37 actually.
So we said it a lot in week 1, and we're saying it a lot in week 2. Mustang defensive penalties are becoming a real problem as we get a deflection from Omar Hayes will cause the pass to fall incomplete. That'll bring up 2nd and 10 for the Knights. So, again, there's a lot of really nice things you can say about the Wekiva defense and maybe a few not-so-nice things that you might say when it comes to, again, that discipline and control and mental and emotional acuity that is keeping them from completely stopping the Ocoee cause here. Ocoee, meanwhile, you have to give them credit, showing some resiliency in the face of what has otherwise been a very frustrating second half on both sides of the ball, as the screen does complete there to Wasim, and he gets a few yards out of that. Assad Wasim makes the completion. Ramel Smith there to make the stop. That's a pickup of 2 on the play. 3rd and 8 coming up for Ocoee. So Wekiva again looking to see if they can force a fourth down.
From the Wekiva 44, 14-7, Ocoee trailing Wekiva. Second regular season game for both teams. Ocoee 0-1, Wekiva 1-0. And dropping back, Warden finds his man over the middle, a laser-like pass, and that was his best throw of the night. Couldn't have come at a better time for Ocoee, again trailing 14-7 as we approach 3 minutes.
Pass complete to Alston Ware. Smith makes the stop, but not before the Knights pick up a first down at the 30-yard line. So the third down conversion breathes new life into the Ocoee cause. 3 minutes to go in the ball game, and now the clock, which has really been Wekiva's friend for so much of the second half. If Ocoee scores here, then the clock gives Wekiva precious little opportunity to do much, as we get a Jones carry stop by Sincere Edwards for a loss of 3 on the play. 2nd and 13, or a long 12 perhaps, coming up for the Knights.
And it looked like there was just some miscommunication between Warden and Jones. They both touched the ball at the same time and then stood there for about 2 seconds.
Wekiva will take their first timeout of the second half. And that's something I was actually just about to point out, that both teams had all 3 of their timeouts, or at least until now they did. Wekiva now spends their first one here, so still plenty of opportunities to stop the clock as we have a 1-score game going into the last 2 minutes. So it looks like we're set up for a potentially interesting conclusion to Week 2 here at Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. We'll be back in just a moment. We'd like to announce last call for concessions. Again, last call for concessions. If you need something on the way out, need a snack, need a cold beverage, make sure you stop by now. Building 9 for those on the home side, Building 10 behind you for those on the visitor side.
So back to live action and a completion. And that's going to change the feel of this game. All the way down that right sideline, Warden slung that ball.
Pass is complete inside the Mustang end zone, all the way near the goal line. The ball is spotted at about the 3, and it's 1st and goal, Ocoee.
So as you heard Mark say, 1st and goal for Ocoee, and now Wekiva's defense is going to have to come up. So far in this young season, the biggest series of downs for the Mustangs defense. A 30-yard completion. They line up one back set, 2 receivers, and they're going to go to the air.
No, they're going to keep it on the ground. It's Jones. Did he get in? Jones on the carry, Smith on the stop. And Smith is taken down just short of the goal line. 2nd and goal now from the 1.
Handoff again, this time powering ahead. And no, did not get in. Oh, it is a touchdown.
That's
yes, now I see the
Alston Ware punching in 1 yard for an Ocoee touchdown. That takes it to a 1-point ball game, 14-13 the score, with $1:53 remaining in the 4th quarter. Nope, strike that.
And so Marlon Munoz is on, tie this game up, 153, 14-13. And no, they're going to go for a 2-point conversion instead, and they take the lead. A Wildcat formation, and it plunges in, just straight up power like they did on the touchdown run.
Singh on the 2-point conversion, and it is good. The Knights take a 15-14 lead with 1 minute 53 seconds remaining in the ball game. Well, Neil, now Wekiva is on their heels and has to respond.
Absolutely, Mark. Wekiva's dominated this game in terms. Well, they haven't dominated, but they've been the team in control. They've dictated terms by which the game is being played. But they have not, and we've mentioned it throughout, they have not put Ocoee away when they've had their opportunities. As well as the defense has played, as much as it's come up with the big plays, they've also had a handful of those plays, more so than the offense, which has allowed Ocoee to stay close enough, and now they take the lead. And in particular, you just talked about it, 4 or 5 plays, 4 or 5 third or fourth down plays, penalties committed by Wekiva, and Ocoee keeps possession of the ball. And now a light kickoff taken on that left sideline. And breaks a tackle, and that got about another 7-8 yards, so some additional yardage.
Of course, Neil, you and I are the house team here for Wekiva, but this is actually a poetic story for Ocoee if the result holds, because last week they were victims of a come-from-behind 1-point victory by Apopka, and this week they are poised now to bestow the same fate on the Mustangs that they suffered last week. Now we're going to get a pause in the action here. Nope, not an official timeout, just a huddle on both sides. Again, Wekiva has 2 timeouts left. Ocoee has all of theirs.
So the good news if you're Wekiva is you do just need a field goal. You're down by 1 point. On the other hand, we have yet to see Christian Innocent attempt a field goal this year.
Well, that's true, Neil, and so that's a situation that could come up conceivably with $1:46 on the clock. And
they're going to go to the rush, the handoff, to try and swing it around to the left with Bennett, and he does turn it upfield, and he also got out of bounds. So what looked like it was going to be a wasted play turns into about a 7-yard gain.
Joshua Bennett on the carry.
And
that picks up 9 for the Mustangs, puts the ball at the 45-yard line, 2nd and 1.
And the clock did not stop. Bennett was unable to get out of bounds.
Actually, I think that's a first down. They were late to move the chains. And correction, the chains are moving. So that was a 10-yard carry by Bennett, and it is a Mustang first down.
So Wekiva led 14-0. 2 consecutive touchdowns by Ocoee, and they have a 15-14 lead. Wekiva with possession of the ball, 1:12 remaining. They just got a first down, and it's at the 45, Wekiva 45-yard line, and now a timeout. Coach Schwartz wants to talk over his options.
Ocoee requests their first timeout of the second half. 15-14, the Knights lead with 1:12 seconds remaining in the ball game. Once again, for those of you in the stadium, if you are depending on a ride to get home from tonight's game and you haven't already done so, let them know that we are headed into the last 72 seconds of regulation here at Baptist Orthodontic Stadium. We appreciate your cooperation in helping them get home to their families. We would also like to again thank our sponsors, Dr. Baptiste and his team at Baptist Orthodontic Stadium, as well as our friends at Orlando Health Jewett Orthopedic Institute under the leadership of Dr. Elizabeth Davis, our team physician. And finally, of course, Chick-fil-A of Greater Orlando, proud partners of OCPS for the 2022 Metro Conference season.
So Wekiva needs to get that ball down the field, and in a hurry, handoff, the rush. Good news is they get out of bounds. Bad news is minimal gain. Looks like about a yard. Actually, yeah, gained a yard. So it'll be 2nd and 9 at the 46 with 1:07 remaining. And now you're looking back, and you can see that interception return off of Davis by Joshua Guerrier. That's also a key moment. Didn't seem so big at the time. Bobbled, stumbled, and dropped by Edwards.
Sincere Edwards, the intended target. Coverage provided by Justin Sanderson, and that falls incomplete. Brings up 3rd and 11 for Wekiva. So now, Neil, Wekiva's looking at a 3rd down conversion. 62 seconds left on the clock, and you have to believe here with each team having 2 timeouts remaining that Wekiva's got to get the first down here. Otherwise, it's difficult to imagine a scenario where they get the ball back.
Yeah. Although they do still, as you said, Mark, have those 2 timeouts. And Davis drops back on this critical play. Could be the nail in the coffin. He's going to try to make something. Did get a nice gain. Obviously, you're in 4-down territory, so.
Tyree Davis on the carry for the Mustangs. And he picks up about 6 on the play, maybe 7. And so that's going to bring up 4th and 3 for Wekiva. So here it is, Neil. This is the game, pretty much, with 54 seconds left. Wekiva almost must score a first down here, if not more, or else I don't see how they get the ball back with enough time to do anything, with just 2 timeouts remaining.
Yeah, with less than a minute, it's going to be, I just don't see how they do it either. You got 30 seconds in between the play to get the play off. So what looked like a Wekiva victory comes down to this.
There it is. Snap away. Shuttle.
Go with the rush to Weathers. He scoops upfield.
Terrell Weathers has the Mustang first down.
And hope remains alive for the Mustangs. Give it to Weathers, the big man, as far as his impact. Is that 8 yards?
Ball spotted at the 40-yard line, 1st and 10 Mustangs.
So
New Life, now that doesn't mean Wekiva's won yet. They still got a lot of work to do. And
going
bring it out.
Deep. And no flag. And I got to tell you, Mark, given some of the other penalties, I'm not saying the refs are in the pocket of Ocoee by any means, but I just don't understand that call. Not making that call. There was contact.
Pass intended for Kevel Cooper falls incomplete. 2nd and 10 coming up for Wekiva. So at least the good news is that stops the clock without having to spend a timeout, so it's not all for nothing there.
35 seconds remaining. And as I was saying on that 4th down play, 7 yards by Weathers, that puts him at 192 yards for the night. So I think it's you go with your big men, your big guy there in terms of the impact. But now, as you said, Mark, still work to do. Rush coming in. Davis drops back. Quick over the middle pass. Got some yardage and some good territory.
Sincere Edwards catches the pass and then gets several yards after the completion. That's going to pull the ball down inside the 30-yard line to the 26. First and 10 Mustangs. The clock will stop briefly to move the chains, and Wekiva says we want it to stop a little longer. The Mustangs request their second timeout of the fourth quarter, and they will have first and 10 from the Knights' 26-yard line when we return from the break.
We have? Yeah, I know.
Who is looking at the player now? So then it must be Jones. If he's been the back, no. If he's been the back, James.
Okay. Yeah, he's the main running back, but I could have sworn he was 0, but I... 15-14, the Ocoee Knights have rallied from a 14-0 deficit over the Wekiva Mustangs, playing at home. 26 seconds remaining. Ball on the Ocoee 26. Tyree Davis drops back under pressure, and whoa! The defense, the offensive line has presented the sack all night until the one play they could not afford to. Wekiva does have one last timeout, but they are forced to use it. And now they will have to move the ball 34 yards.
Davis is taken down by Rents and Carrasquillo on the sack. That pulls the ball back to the 33-yard line. And it's going to bring up second and long, about second and 19 coming up for the Mustangs. They will take their final timeout to stop the clock with 16 seconds remaining.
So as we said, Christian Innocent, the field goal kicker, has yet to attempt the field goal. He's 5 of 5 in PATs. And so not really sure if you're Coach Schwartz, you're thinking field goal or touchdown here. If you do think field goal, though, remember you have to get out of bounds. No more timeouts left for Wekiva. And what will be a heartbreaking loss, even probably more so than the way Ocoee lost last week, as they gave up the lead with just over a minute remaining. 2 receivers on the right, 1 on the left, 1 back set. Davis drops back, has to step up under incredible pressure. Ball comes loose, trying to get rid of it, and that's going to be the ball game, folks. No, it's picked up and thrown. And
all right, well, so that was an entire story of emotions going through.
4 seconds remaining, and actually,
the incomplete pass is actually not the worst thing that could have happened there.
Anyway, I thought that was going to be the last play because I thought the refs had ruled when the ball came out the first time.
No, that was a fumble with a live ball. There was no forward motion.
I thought Davis was just trying to throw rid of the ball. So Wekiva does actually catch a break in the fact that the clock did stop, so they will be able to run one more play.
Yeah, so Davis will have a fumble on his record for that, but he recovers his own fumble, stays on his feet, and that's a heads-up play because normally, under any other circumstance, your coach tells you in a situation like that, you fall on the ball.
Eat the ball.
But in this situation, that would end the ball game. So he successfully picks it up and manages to get an incomplete pass thrown into no man's land.
Last play of the game. Wekiva needs a miracle. They need to move the ball 33 yards, trailing 15-14 to Ocoee. They had a 14-0 lead heading into the fourth quarter. Ocoee has scored 2 touchdowns. They scored the 2 PAT after the second touchdown on a wildcat formation. Singh busting ahead, just lowering his shoulder, and caught Wekiva's defense, special teams, actually by surprise.
And now Ocoee requests their second timeout of the second half. And so they might as well. The clock was stopped anyway. It doesn't give Wekiva any particular advantage. So Ocoee knows that this is going to be not officially a Hail Mary. It doesn't have quite that distance, but essentially a Hail Mary.
Yeah,
That's
Ocoee's thought is keep everything in front. Doesn't matter if he catches it. Just don't let him gain 50 yards. Can let him gain 49. 4 seconds remaining. Wekiva 1-0, Ocoee 0-1, and again, they need a miracle here. Last play heroics. Davis takes the snap, drops back, And he's under pressure for a third consecutive play, trying to keep the play alive, and he's not going to. Down he goes.
Tyree Davis is taken down in Mustang territory, and that will end the ball game. The Knights have come from behind on a 2-point conversion to win by 1. After having suffered the same fate to Apopka last week, they now have the 1-point victory. 15-14 is the final score here in Week 2 of the 2022 football season.
And so Ocoee storms back, scoring 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter after trailing 14-0. And Mark, a heartbreaker for Wekiva, but the second consecutive heartbreaker against Ocoee. Same thing happened last year as far as Ocoee scored with about 35 seconds left. They were down in that game 13-0. The final score was 14-13, so not the same exact score, but a 1-point loss as well. And
meanwhile, like I said, a poetic victory if you're an Ocoee fan, because you saw the opposite of this happen last week at Apopka, where Ocoee had led for much of the game, and then Apopka came back at the end, beat them by 1, and now Ocoee has delivered the same result here, except this time in their favor. But in any case, a thriller between two teams that are both in the Sentinel Super 16 and proved why they should be tonight. And I think Wekiva is going to have to go back and work on the same thing that we talked about last week, which is those careless mistakes, those mental and emotional errors, particularly on 3rd and 4th down, giving up first down conversions that otherwise could have stopped the momentum of the Ocoee offense and instead renewed it. Of course, that takes nothing away from Ocoee and their resilience in coming up with those clutch plays. They had a couple of long balls that really paid off for them, and certainly Jones, with all the touches that he got tonight, including the score there, leading the team to victory. So Wekiva drops to 1-1. Ocoee improves to 1-1 here in the second week of the football season.
Yeah, and in particular, Mark, since you were talking about the mistakes, of course, the first one, and talked about it throughout last week and up until this week, the interception return. And actually, they were trailing 14-7, Ocoee, going into the fourth quarter. That 7 points was an interception return, 7:39 remaining by Joshua Guerrier, the defensive back. He also plays wide receiver. It was 80 yards. Davis throwing that. And that was really the one mistake that he's made through the first 2 games, actually 3 games if you include the preseason Kickoff Classic. And Guerrier talked about this at the beginning. Last year it was Pierre and Ware for Ocoee. Pretty much they carried the ball. This year they added 4 or 5 more players, Guerrier being one of those more, although this time he scored on the defensive end, but you could certainly see his offensive prowess coming through after he intercepted that. It was first to fifth gear in about 5 yards. He just simply outran the defense, jumping the route. Davis throwing the ball, an ill-advised pass. And so that's 14-7. You go back to that mistake, and, of course, if Davis doesn't throw that ball, if he just throws it out of bounds, it's a 15-8. Of course, that doesn't mean necessarily Ocoee wouldn't tie it, but certainly a different situation where Wekiva fell behind in that last minute and then had to move the length of the field. The winning touchdown was scored with, I believe, 56 seconds remaining? And to be honest, folks, we do apologize. Unfortunately, our view was blocked from up here, but we do believe it was Keandre Jones, who really didn't do much all game until that drive, which won the game. That drive was 78 yards.
Yep, and that was at the 153 mark.
153, 10 plays, 78 yards, and I don't even think Jones got 50 yards total in the game. But again, and this is why I brought up that interception return, this was a game where Wekiva, for 90% of the plays, outplayed Ocoee, but the 2 plays, the 2 scoring plays along with maybe 3 or 4 others that set up the play in that last drive had the bigger impact.
Yeah, and that is so often what you see in high school football, particularly in the early weeks, where the defenses are still getting the early season jitters worked out. That a couple of those long balls that either turn into big plays or turn into INTs make all the difference. So
but also on that last drive, the other part of that, and we can't not say this and do justice to wrapping up this game, and as the in-house team for Wekiva, penalties. That's the most tangible. They committed over 15 penalties again, but the two most important ones, or the two that had the biggest impact, again, goes back to that drive in which the winning touchdown was scored. Jones plowing in, we believe it was Jones from a yard out. That drive continued twice on penalties. Both of them were 15-yard penalties. One pass interference. The other was an unsportsmanlike conduct. The first one was on 3rd and 12, and the second was actually it didn't continue the drive because it came on at the end of the first down, but obviously that was 15 yards tacked on that moved the ball inside the Wekiva's 30-yard line. And then it's a completely different game, not just in terms of feel and direction, but the strategy. Once you get inside that 30, 25-yard line of your opponent, that opens up the playbook.
Yeah, so obviously we saw a lot of the same glitches with Wekiva, particularly on the defensive side, that we saw last week. We also saw a lot to like, but we saw those same glitches,
Yep.
The difference being that Wekiva got away with it against Olympia because they were able to avoid those big plays, whereas tonight Ocoee was able to take advantage. And the last thing I want to say here is it was certainly not just because Wekiva made mistakes that Ocoee won tonight. I do not want to leave with that impression, particularly on that final drive.
No.
You have to give a lot of credit to Ocoee's defense. That was a super tough defense. I had not seen that from them all night, but the pressure that they put on with the sacks, with the TFLs, with just not the secondary did their job, not giving Davis any good options for where he could throw it, and then even with the limited contingency that was left at the line of scrimmage, being able to break through the Wekiva offensive line and put pressure on Davis, particularly on those final two plays of the game. You have to give Ocoee a lot of credit for that. That was not Wekiva performing poorly. That was Ocoee performing well. So they certainly earned the 15-14 tonight.
And again, go back to, you mentioned this throughout the game, just Ocoee, a team that never really gave up, not just in terms of just giving up in general, but in terms of the game plan. They kept it close, to use an old cliche, close to the vest. They didn't do anything spectacular, and they waited for Wekiva to make the mistakes. And I just want to point out, too, that again, you don't win or lose game on one or two plays, and it's not because one team, it's not 100% solely because one team makes mistakes. There's a reason that they do make those mistakes. Also, as we get ready to close out here, one last note. I know it's one of those deals that it's very bittersweet now. At halftime, it looked a lot better. Terrell Weathers, 193 yards. But again, going back to the defense, he only gained 46 yards in the second half. He had 6 carries of at least 20 yards in the first half, along with the 2 TDs, but he was only able to do that once, a 20-plus yard carry in the second half, and he was limited even more so, more importantly, to only 6 carries in that second half compared to 22 in the first half.
Yeah, certainly in the third quarter, things got so much in the weeds on both sides of the ball that it became very easy to forget that it was only a one-score game, but Ocoee definitely did not forget that. And so that takes us to the conclusion of our broadcast here as we come to the end of Week 2, 15-14. The final score here on Week 2, Ocoee again improves to 1-1 after falling to Apopka last week. Wekiva drops to 1-1 after having won against Olympia last week. Next opportunity to catch Wekiva in action is coming up just 7 days from today, September 9th. Wekiva will complete their 3-game sequence of openers at home. So they have a back-to-back-to-back home games to open up weeks 1, 2, and 3. Neil and I will be back for that. Again, that's September 9th at 7 p.m. kickoff. We'll go live a few minutes before that with pregame, and we hope that you will join us then once again on your choice of YouTube, NFHS Network, or Varsity Sports Network. Thanks for joining us tonight. If you are watching us on any of those services, we hope that you will subscribe to our channel before you go, and we appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, this is Mark Bargy, the voice of the Mustangs, for Neil Fisher from the Apopka Chief, wishing you a good night and a great weekend. Good night from Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium here in Apopka, Florida.